Hi my lovelies, it's Nisha. So as promised, today we will talk about perimenopause and menopause. As some of you might know, I've been on HRT for 6 years now. Recently I've had a checkup and update, so I thought it will be a time to tell you about my journey. So make yourself a cup of tea, cup of coffee, or have a glass of wine, depends what time it is when you're watching it, and let's have a chat. Menopause is not talked about enough, and this is so frustrating because it happens to every single woman. It's not like it's an illness, it's not like it's made by choice, it just happens just like puberty. But hardly anybody talks about it. It is getting better, thankfully, but still we don't talk about it enough. So we will talk about the difference between perimenopause and menopause, what are the symptoms, the pros and cons of HRT, and then I will tell you a bit about my journey. I will later read you some stuff from a book that I'm reading. Is written by Davina McCall. If you're in the UK, you know who she is. She's a TV personality, presenter, very famous here, and she's done wonders for menopausal women because she started openly talking about it. And you know, sometimes we need someone famous to talk about it for something to be done about it. And she's written this book with Dr. Naomi Potter, who is a member of British Menopause Society, called Menopause. I will read you something from the book from Dr. Naomi a bit later. I would strongly recommend this book, even for your husbands, partners, boyfriends to read, because I think life would be so much easier if men also understood what we go through and it's not our fault. This book is great because Davina is funny. So the book is funny. She tells you about her experiences, how it was for her. She also has also has messages from women that've written to her and their symptoms, so you might recognize these things. And then she has the scientific bits from Dr. Naomi Potter, who explains what's what. So this book is very easy to read. It's not too complicated. It's not like a medical book that gives you brain freeze. So I would strongly recommend this book. I will leave the link in the description box. First of all, a disclaimer. I'm not a medical professional, so this is just my story, my experiences, what I have learned over the 6-7 years. I've researched it, I've read a lot about it. I obviously have spoken to my medical professional, who is the member of British Menopause Society. And of course, I've watched Dr. Barbara Taylor a lot here on YouTube. So if you will recognize any of these signs, you need to go and see your own doctor to talk about it. And remember, no perimenopause or menopause are the same for every woman. We are all different, so we will all need different care. That's very, very important. Just because you doing something your way doesn't mean it is good for me or the next person. Like Barbara Taylor says, your menopause, your way. So you have to talk to your doctor and choose the best option and the best journey for you. So there is a lot of confusion between perimenopause and menopause. Some people are not sure what is what. Are they the same thing? So menopause is a cessation of your monthly periods. If you haven't had a period for 12 consecutive months, you are in menopause. That means that the primary function of your ovaries has ceased. The factory is closed. No more babies. The perimenopause is the period of transition from the fertile reproductive period to non-reproductive period, and that can last up to 10 years. Yes. And I would say that this is probably the worst period, the period leading up to menopause. There is no really average age for when your perimenopause starts. You know, some women get it really early. They could be in their 20s. Sometimes if you have, I think it's called induced menopause, is, for example, if you had to have hysterectomy, full hysterectomy, when they take your ovaries away where your estrogen is being produced, that will put you in an early menopause. With perimenopause, can start at any time, but I would say usually it's about the age of 45. That's, I think, when it happened for me. In perimenopause, your estrogen starts declining rapidly, and also you start getting fluctuations of these hormones, progesterone, estrogen, and also testosterone. Yes, women do have testosterone, obviously much lower levels than men, but they work together and are very balanced, and in perimenopause it all goes all over the place. It's very difficult to diagnose perimenopause with a blood test, because if you think about it, your hormones not just fluctuate from day to day, but hour by hour. Depends where you are in your cycle, depends where you are in a day. So these days, if you are over the age of 45 and you will have all or some of these symptoms, you will just know that something is not right, but you might not connect it to perimenopause. The first treatment is usually HRT without the blood test, and then they go on symptoms. They will prescribe you HRT, see how you go. If you feel better, if you not, then they might adjust it. Once you are on HRT, it is easier to measure your hormones, because of the HRT, your hormones sort of stay steady. Now we know it's very difficult, especially here, I'm based in the UK, to have that diagnosed. Unfortunately, GPs are not trained in menopause in this country. You can find amazing GPs, but these are the ones that have special interest in women's health, and they might be even members of the British Menopause Society, and that's wonderful if you get GP like this. That wasn't my case, but if you research stuff and arm yourself with all this knowledge, you can be a bit more insistent when you go and see your GP. I had to go private. I will tell you about my story a bit later. So let's talk about the symptoms. So you might notice changes in your periods. They can get longer, irregular, heavier, lighter. Changes in your PMT. Your PMT might be worse. Sleepless nights, irritability, low mood, almost depression-like feeling. That's why a lot of women around that age are put on antidepressants, because the doctors don't think of those signs as perimenopause, they just think you are depressed. So that is very common symptom. Also, forgetful, muzzy head, brain fog, constantly forgetting things, being irritable, bad mood, short-tempered, vaginal dryness, watery discharge from your vagina, itchy eyes, itchy skin, just itching. I've had all that. Low libido, loss of confidence at work, even driving, and also hot flashes and night sweats. I didn't know what night sweats were till it happened to me, and I researched it. I only ever heard of hot flashes, but not night sweats. Weight gain round the middle. And this is, I've read somewhere, because extra estrogen is made and stored in fat cells. So if your estrogen is dropping, I suppose your body wants to hold on to it. So it holds on to the fat where that extra estrogen is stored. Okay, let's talk about the hormones. So progesterone is the hormone that regulates your periods, prepares your uterus for pregnancy and all that. Now estrogen is so important. Depletion in estrogen affects every organ in your body. You have estrogen receptors everywhere. Estrogen regulates temperature in your body. That's how we can probably explain the hot flashes and night sweats. It enhances the feel-good factor, so it plays a big role in your nervous system. It has impact on your skin. It improves thickness, quality, collagen production in your skin. That's how we can explain the sudden aging, going dry, wrinkling, because of low estrogen. So estrogen moisturizes everything, makes everything plump and hydrated. That's how you can also explain the vaginal dryness, the dry skin, dry itchy eyes. All that is about moisture. Estrogen improves bone strength and bone structure. That's why a lot of women in menopause have osteoporosis, break their hips, and also it protects your heart and cardiovascular system. If you have low testosterone, that will make you more tired, less focused, low libido, so testosterone is important as well. Now, a lot of people say, why would you need HRT? You still have periods, you're too young. This is rubbish. That's when you need to start. The earlier you start, the better, because those years leading up to you eventually losing periods are probably the worst. Well, like I said, for 50-75% of women. Now let's talk about pros and cons of HRT. In my opinion, not just my opinion, there have been new studies done, the pros outweigh the cons. The first thing that comes to probably every woman's mind, and GPs, because they still go by the old study, is that HRT causes breast cancer. A lot of women are afraid of is the risks of HRT. And this is because of a very bad study that was done, I think, in 2000, saying that HRT causes breast cancer. And this is not true. Yes, even now, if you go on, I might have a look in a minute, what website was it? Let me have a look. Oh, I probably won't be able to find it. But it's one of the NHS sites, maybe even, says that your risk of breast cancer increases slightly. But being obese has higher risk of getting cancer than being on HRT, for example, or smoking or drinking too much. So there are exceptions. If you've had breast cancer in the past and you've recovered, you might think twice, because the breast cancer feeds on hormones, so you might think twice. But my doctor told me that she has a couple of patients that had breast cancer in the past, and they weighed up the pros and cons, and they still chose to go on HRT, because they said, what's the point me worrying if I'm going to get cancer again when my life is so miserable that it's not worth living anyway. So that's what I mean, it's such a personal, your menopause, your way. You have to weigh up all the pros and cons and decide what is best for you. Some women go the natural way. There are a lot of natural supplements that can help you. But again, if it works for you, great. Some women decide to soldier on and do nothing. You are brave, but I don't know if it's wise to suffer. But again, it's your menopause, your way, so it's your choice. Another thing, and I'm going to read this from Davina's book. This is a quote from Dr. Naomi, talking about how the pros outweigh the cons when it comes to HRT. The symptoms of perimenopause and menopause can be very tough, but declining hormone level can also have health implications long term. The symptoms of perimenopause and menopause can be improved by HRT, but taking HRT can also reduce the risk of osteoporosis, the frequency of urinary tract infections, and the risk of cardiovascular disease. There is also emerging evidence it might protect against dementia, Alzheimer's, and other neurological conditions. So as we talk with osteoporosis, because estrogen makes your bones stronger and denser, if you lose the estrogen, it makes your bones more prone to fractures. When it comes to heart disease, I didn't know this, but heart disease is the #1 killer of women in the UK. In fact, coronary heart disease kills more than twice as many women as breast cancer, and I didn't know that. So the cardiovascular disease refers to condition affecting the heart or blood vessels. So heart disease, angina, heart attack, high blood pressure, stroke, and vascular dementia. So estrogen helps to keep the arteries smooth and flexible. Once estrogen declines, your arteries are more prone to developing a lining of fatty plaque, which narrows the arteries and makes you more likely to have a heart attack or stroke. Estrogen also helps to regulate cholesterol levels. Dementia. Worldwide, women with dementia outnumber men 2 to 1. And because estrogen protects against vascular disease, which is one of the causes of dementia, especially the vascular dementia, it is therefore logical to assume that HRT can prevent vascular dementia. And there are some studies being done that might protect against other types of dementia, but they're still researching that. These are the pros. So HRT is not just to elevate the symptoms of your menopause, perimenopause, but also protect your health for the future. And you can stay on HRT till you die. And that's what I'm planning to do. You will feel younger, happier, more invigorated, won't probably break your hip, and hopefully won't get dementia or heart disease. So when you read that, to me, this outweighs the risk of breast cancer, which is very small. I've talked about it as well again when I just saw my doctor, and there's been a new research done. That's why I think things are getting better with HRT, because the latest research, some studies shown that the benefits definitely outweigh the risks for most people. Again, you have to decide for yourself. Okay, let's talk about my story. So I would say it started when I was around 45. So the usual happened, the low mood, but I didn't think much about it because I was at the time on antidepressants, so I thought, well, it's just my depression. The next big thing was irritability. My husband even used to say that I walk around like wound up spring, like I'm ready to explode at any time. Forgetfulness, not feeling happy really, nothing gave me pleasure, things I used to enjoy were blah. Then my periods. In my case, my periods started getting very heavy, gradually. And then night sweats. This was such a surprise to me because I have never ever before that heard of night sweats. I've heard of hot flashes, but never night sweats. So what happens? You go to bed, hopefully you fall asleep, because that's another thing, you can't sleep. You wake up shivering and you would be completely soaked. It was like a river running down here. So obviously you start sweating, then because you are so soaked, you get cold and you start shivering. And that would wake you up, then you can't get back to sleep. So that was happening to me at first, maybe just once or twice a month. And I would say it's not something that happens every night. It must be at the certain time of the month. So again, while the hormones fluctuate. Sleepless nights. You might remember me telling you a few years back that I had nights, probably 1 or 2 every month, that I just could not go to sleep. Doesn't matter what I would do, I was wide awake. In the end, I would come downstairs, watch TV, make myself something to eat, have a cup of tea, just like if it was daytime. And then I would go on all day next day, and then I would get tired about 8 o'clock in the evening. So you suffer from sleep deprivation, and sleep is so important that obviously that doesn't help. I also was feeling very anxious. I started having those palpitations. I even remember I went to have my heart checked because I felt I was having heart attack. But my heart was fine, everything was fine. And even then, no one ever thought that that's what it could be. Again, I thought it's to do with my depression. And forgetful. You know, where are my keys? Where did I put my glasses? Oh, they are on my head. All that. And the constant shouting, being really explosive, the most benign things would drive me crazy. I don't remember if I started thinking in the end that it could be perimenopause, or for some reason I came across Barbara Taylor on YouTube, who is a gynecologist. She's written lots of books, and her videos about peri and menopause. This was a godsend. She's amazing. She's a bit kooky. She's a bit eccentric. But the way she explains everything, she always has props. She has even playlist of menopause, like almost like classes from 1 to whatever. And after watching few of her videos, I thought, this all makes sense now. So I took myself off to my GP. I told her about all my symptoms, and I even said to her, I think it's perimenopause. And she said to me, how old are you? And I think I was about 46 by then. So I said, I'm 46. She said, yeah, that's when things will start happening. There's nothing you can do about it. And that was that. The frustration, I wanted to cry. I wasn't at that time equipped with all the knowledge that I have now to argue with her about it. I just went home and thought, well, that's it then. I'm sure things are a bit better now than they were 6-7 years ago. I've decided then to take matters to my own hands. I found a women's health clinic that specializes in menopause, and you have to unfortunately pay for it. And it is terrible because these appointments are expensive. They can be anything from £250 to £400, but you do get a whole hour, and some of them include blood tests as well. And I tell you something, having an hour of someone sitting there listening to you, proper listening to you, and understand what you're going through and validating it is worth every penny. I actually cried at that appointment because I felt so relieved. I thought, I'm not going crazy. This is not just happening to me. This is happening to a lot of women. So apparently 25% of women will go through menopause, not even knowing. Good for you. I'm so jealous. Lucky you. 50% will have some or all the symptoms and feel a bit crappy. And 25%, another 25% will have it really, really bad. And I'm talking even suicidal. Completely paralyzed, can't do anything, can't have a normal life. I would put myself in that 50%. I've had almost all the symptoms that I've just mentioned. And I'm saying they didn't paralyze my life, but that might be because I was maybe like that for a year before I went on HRT. So I wasn't suffering for years and years and letting things get worse and worse. So unfortunately, even though I have private insurance, even private insurance will not pay for your menopause hormone consultation. They will pay for things like pelvic scan, because that's like investigation that you need to see if something is wrong. They will pay for hysterectomies, for stuff like that, but not for the actual consultation. When it comes, when you get the prescription from your private provider, my doctor wrote to my GP with what I need hormone-wise, and depending where you live in the UK, which NHS trust you belong to, they will give you those on prescription, or they might not, and you might have to pay yourself. I hope it is better now and they all will give it to you, even if you've gone to the private doctor. So I was put on Everol patches, 25 milligrams, and also progesterone oral tablets. You don't need progesterone because progesterone protects your womb from womb cancer. I was also given testosterone gel, but testosterone takes quite a long time to start to work. I think it's about 6 months before you notice a difference. So I had to use my patches twice a week, change them twice a week. And you stick them, I stick them on my bum. You can stick them on your thigh or on your belly, somewhere in that region. You don't stick them here like nicotine patches. You take the progesterone tablets, and then twice a week I also had to rub that gel of testosterone. I used to rub it on my inner thigh. So after having all my hormones prescribed, I happily went home, started my treatment, and after 3 days, seriously 3 days, I felt like the cloud has lifted. I felt this unbelievable calm coming over me. I cannot explain it. You know, when you're in it, you don't really realize it because it happens gradually and it becomes the norm. You know, this constant irritation and anxiety and almost being like on a high alert, but then at the same time having brain fog. You get used to it. But honestly, 3 days after my first estrogen patch, I was calm as anything. And from then on, things just got better. And I was fine for a couple of years. But then, after 2 years, my night sweats started coming back. So I went to a GP. It was a different GP that I saw at the time, and they already had my history from the specialist, so they knew what I'm on. And I've explained to her that I've started getting my night sweats again. She said, okay, that means you probably need higher dose of estrogen. So they put me then on the Everol 50 milligrams. And my progesterone was the same and everything else was the same. And my night sweats went away again. So for the last 4 years, I've been now on the Everol 50. Also, about 3 years ago, as you know, I went and had the Mirena coil put in, and that was because my periods were getting worse and worse and worse. The first 2 days of my period, I couldn't go anywhere. In fact, the first night of my period, I couldn't go to bed all night because I had to change so many times. There was no point me actually going to sleep. And I've been told that Mirena coil would stop my periods. Unfortunately, it didn't. It doesn't stop periods for every woman, but they became so light that it was like so much better. So because of that, Mirena coil is progesterone. It has progesterone in it, slow release progesterone. I didn't have to be on those oral progesterone tablets anymore. So I'm only on patches now, and I have the Mirena coil. And lately I think I'm nearing the menopause because my periods now, I think I had one in January, then I didn't have one till May, and I'm having one right now. So in the last 6-7 months I had just 3 periods. So I think I'm slowly entering the menopause. I feel wonderful, I feel myself, I feel normal. I would recommend HRT to every woman. Of course, again, it's your choice and how you do it. I found out that there is another symptom of perimenopause, and that's digestive problems. So you might know, if you watch me all the time, I've been complaining about bloating and all these stomach pains. I've had it all investigated. There is nothing wrong with me. And funny enough, I've just read from Professor Tim Spector. If you're in the UK, you probably heard of Tim Spector. He is the creator of Zoe, and he's often on the TV talking about health. He said that in midlife, women start metabolizing sugar differently, and that gives and causes digestive problems. So apart from me feeling great on HRT, I now have to work out a way of managing these symptoms with my diet. So as you know, I've tried carnivore diet for a bit and I felt much better on it, although I found it very boring and I don't know if I could be on it for the rest of my life. So I am still on very low carb diet. I add a bit of salad and vegetables. I can't do big salads anymore. That gives me problems straight away. So diet plays very important role. The sensitivity to sugar changes, so definitely carbs, have to cut down on carbs. And one thing I remembered, I've just talked to you in one of my Monday vlogs about me taking magnesium citrate because it helps with the constipation. And I remembered there's another channel, A Vogel, it's all menopause channel, and in one of the videos the lady was talking about the importance of magnesium, and she recommends the magnesium citrate. So it helps with the toilet, with carb cravings, will relax you. It is fourth most important mineral in our body. It's needed for hundreds of chemical processes in our body, keeps your bones healthy, keeps your mood up, good nerve function, helps with muscle function, helps with sleep, cramps, restless leg syndrome, and she recommends the citrate. But if you are on heart medication or have high blood pressure, you must check with your doctor first before you start taking it. But I have been taking it and it really helps with the constipation and the belly problems. So all I have to now really take good care of is my diet and try to work out what is best for me. Okay, my lovelies, so that was my journey, still is my journey. I am so happy to be on HRT, and I would recommend it to almost everyone. Yes, I know some women choose to do it different way or do nothing at all, and that's absolutely fine. Again, I cannot repeat it enough. Your menopause, your way, and you do what's best for you. I hope you enjoyed this video. I found it somewhat helpful. Thank you so much for watching, and stay fabulous. Bye.